On March 4th, 2020, I entered the community space in my middle school, unaware of what was going to happen next. And then I see that the former head of my middle school walk in with an emotional look on his face. And he tells us that a virus is spreading. And it is going right now through East Asia, and it is rapidly spreading across the world. And my school is unaware of how this will impact us, but each day something else could change. And so I am getting pretty worried because I'm really looking forward to going on this school trip with my school, in which we'll be going to the Bahamas. And we're going to be scuba diving and measuring sharks. And that's a great way for me to have a positive hands-on learning experience, which is how I learn to the best effectiveness. However, the next day, on March 5th, my school officially canceled our school trips. And I was devastated. And then 2 weeks later, on March 16th, my school officially decided that this virus was too big and was way too concerning for us to continue going and having in-person learning. And we decided to switch to online remote learning. And so when it started, I felt like that I had lost my effective learning style that I had gained throughout my entire 8th grade school year. And one way in which I had gained some sort of effective learning style was with my 8th grade chemistry and physics course, in which we would usually have, with each unit, we'd either have a project or a test. And for every single time we'd have a test, we'd have our memorization, multiple choice, and then written response answer section. And then we'd have what my chemistry and physics teacher called a practicum, in which we would do some sort of hands-on learning style project in which we would show that we knew whatever it is that we were learning about at that time in some sort of hands-on way. And I always really liked that because I was never the best test taker. Never have been, never will be. But I could show that I still knew what it is we were learning about just as much as anyone else. And so for one of my chemistry practicums, he had us build model molecules, like that, for example. And so we would get this box of molecules, and then you'd have to make one molecule with the list of atoms that you had. So in this case, the little white ones here are hydrogen, the black ones is carbon, the blue ones are oxygen, and then the red ones would be some sort of other one. In this case, this is the caffeine molecule. And so if you could build this molecule, then you could get a perfect score on the practicum, which still shows that even though a test score might not display that you know the material, a practicum can still display that. However, once we moved to online learning, we had the complete removal of practicums and basically the full-on online memorization-based style tests, which is something that I majorly struggled with. However, I began to lose my attention throughout online learning because I had a very hard time maintaining my attention with my teachers. So I decided to look up ways in order for me to maintain my attention. And I learned that chewing gum was a great way to do that. And so it started small, in which I tried to have like one piece of gum each day. However, that only worked for so long. So each day, I basically continued to increase the amount of gum I had. And that basically came that nearing the end of online learning, I'd have basically an entire pack of gum per day. I'd be going through, the second I'd lose my attention, throw in another piece of gum, and hope that I could maintain my attention. It sort of worked, but not really. Because once we went back to the fall, my school decided that it was safe enough for us to go back to in-person learning with masks. And once we moved to in-person learning, I majorly struggled maintaining my attention as throughout 3 months of having online learning, I had massive Zoom fatigue in which I couldn't pay attention to what it is that I was learning. And that was caused through burnout. And that is something that I was majorly affected by. What do you think of when you hear the amount of time of 47 seconds? Just think for a second. You have that picture in your head? Great. Now what if I told you that 47 seconds is the length of your attention span? And 47 seconds is just barely over half the time it takes to heat up a bag of Ben's Original Rice. A bag of rice. Another way of thinking about it is the commercial flight from Westray to Papa Westray in Scotland holds the world record for the shortest commercial flight at 47 seconds. Here you go. Here's where you take off, and you go right there. You can literally see the destination of where you are flying to from where you take off. That is the length of your attention span, is if you saw a video of that world record flight, then you would barely be able to maintain your attention on that once you reach the ending. Having a positive attention is very crucial for having good surroundings. Because if you have good surroundings, then it allows you to pay attention. Because your attention span is how long you can focus on one particular thing. However, if there are distractions, then that removes someone's ability in order to maintain attention on one particular thing. So in the year 2000, someone could pay attention for over 2.5 minutes. Now, we can't even pay attention for 1 minute. In the year I was born, 6 years later, in 2006, the time dropped to 120 seconds. That is still 2 minutes. But now we can't even pay attention for 1 minute. And the reason for that is due to the fact that information is just a click away. If you are interested in a topic and you are wanting to learn more about it, all you have to do is go on any electronic device, search it up what it is you're interested in, and boom, you have all the information right at your fingertips. And a whole lot of people are going to want to summarize as much as possible into as small, trying to give you as much information as possible in as little amount as possible. That wasn't what it was like. In the olden days, you had to get out a newspaper, and that's how you got all your information. But now, every information is now just a click away, and everything is summarized very short, and that causes you to no longer be able to maintain a whole lot of information on a topic because you just don't need to anymore. Having longer attention span is very crucial because if you have the ability to maintain attention for longer periods of time, that will allow you to gain a longer connection with someone. Because if you're meeting someone for the first time, being able to have a longer attention span is very helpful because that means you'll be able to understand more about their story themselves and you'll be able to gain more out of that interaction with that person. Because if you can pay attention for 2 minutes versus 47 seconds, then you'll probably be able to gain a whole lot more out of what that conversation would be. In order to have a strong attention span, you have to, no, sorry. In order for you to have a strong attention span, there has to be engagement. But in order for you to be able to be engaged, you have to have a strong attention span. So the key ingredient in order to have both of those things is personal connection. And there are 2 ways to achieve personal connection. The first is if you are interested in a topic or what it is that you are doing. Because if you are interested in a topic or if you are doing something that you enjoy doing, then you are going to want to make sure that you get as much out of that as possible. Because if you like that topic or this is something that you're really passionate about, in my case it would be something around sports, then I want to make sure I gain the most out of that. And the second way is if you are with positive people or people that you enjoy being around, or if someone, an educator, is teaching you in a way that you like it, then you are going to want to gain a whole lot more out of that topic. Because if you are with people you like, you're going to be more engaged with that, or if the person who's teaching you the topic is doing it in a way that you like or makes you more engaged in a topic, even though at the end of the day, you might not have anything to do with that topic ever again. So, if you want to make sure you get the most out of what it is you're doing, then build a strong personal connection with the people that you're with, and most of all, do what you love. Thank you. Now, stupid final sentence.